This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 11.
I can't remember exactly how much it was, but I know at one point I was looking at the Netlick and it was like $24,000 from 2000. And I'm thinking to myself, well, no, I don't want $24,000. I want 200,000. Maybe a million. This could be it.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host, who got his first hot stock pick from Jim Cramer, Clay Trader.
I promise this was not rigged like this, but we already did the interview, and the fun facts, they're there before we ever do the interviews. And a big topic we covered was puppet trading in the interview. And fun fact just happened to be a pick that I puppet traded. Jim Cramer said, hey, what was it? LVLT was a ticker symbol, level 3 communications. I know they're still out there, but he was talking them up, talking about how great whatever they did would be influencing, and therefore their price was going to go up. So I bought shares. I puppet traded right off of Jim Cramer. And perfect little segue into one of the big overall overarching themes that we talk about in the interview. But I'm ashamed to kind of say it. I mean, I like Jim Cramer, but now, that I have the experience that I do, people that are just randomly watching that show and buying and that's just pure puppet trading, pure dart throwing. But oh well. So welcome to the show. I am happy to be here. My name is Clay Trader, and Ches is here somewhere, I think. Ches, are you here?
I'm watching Dumb and Dumber. Sorry. Are we starting this now, I guess? Okay. All right. Let's see.
We are starting it, and you're going to have to pause Dumb and Dumber. Did you have any sort of... Did you puppet trade Bitcoin? I know that's where you started, but did somebody give you a kind of a hot stock pick at work, or was that pretty much just all you're doing?
So I had some quote-unquote investor friends that had made a bunch of money, and that kind of led me to look at it. But then I was following a few technical traders on Twitter, and I would puppet trade them. They say that this is a good place to buy. But as we kind of touch in the podcast, it's booming markets and bubbles per se are not the most difficult to trade. But we dive way deeper into that during the podcast, so I'll let them listen to it then.
And on that note of the interview, just a little bit of forewarning, Ches and I go off on quite a few rants, not in a bad way, but if you're not a new listener, then you know that this is a very free-flowing conversation. It's a very laid-back environment, and we just go wherever the wind wants to take us. And in this case, the wind directs us in some directions that causes Ches and I to get out there and do a little bit of ranting, and very valuable areas, though, in terms of things that really should be addressed. So, like I said, our guest has brought up and brings up some very good, very beneficial talking points. And who is our guest? It is Zen Trader. We're not going to use the real name at their request, and that's totally fine. If you're willing to come on here, hang out with us, be honest, and just keep it real with us, then I have no problem. Nobody's proclaiming to make millions upon millions of dollars, so if they want to remain anonymous, that's perfectly fine. But in the chat room, he goes by Zen Trader. And if you've been around for a while, then I'm sure you've seen him. But a very valuable member to the community, a great person, and somebody that I am very excited to hear from. And it was really a great interview. So let's dig right in. Well, hey, Zen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is good to have you here. You've been a longtime member, I know, so I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. And let's just start from the get-go. So what got you into the market? What got you interested? What were you doing kind of before you even knew what the market was?
What was I doing before that? Well, I work in IT, so I actually started with development. So worked with a lot of numbers. So it just seemed kind of natural that maybe I tried the stock market. So I think last February I got my tax return. And I said, all right, you know what, because usually I blow through that by April. I'm like, well, let me try to see if I can stretch that out through the whole year. So I opened up a TOS account and got on Twitter and started trading blindly. So it was a good start, very fun.
Now, were you just did you just kind of try to find some popular stock pickers on Twitter? Is that how you that's what you were using Twitter for at that point?
You know what? I had absolutely no idea what to do, so I started by searching OTC or bulletin board stocks on Google, and I found Investors Hub, which then led me to this guy, I Like BB Stock. I'm sure everybody knows who he is. So I followed him on Twitter, and basically I just puppet traded him for a while, and it was actually quite profitable. And I really thought that I was a trader at that point.
So why don't you define puppet trader for our listeners that may have no idea what you mean when you say puppet trading? Because right now it sounds like this is a very valuable strategy. But
yes.
What exactly were you doing? Define that for people that may have no idea what you mean when you say you were puppet trading.
So basically what I did was I just sat there and watched this fellow's Twitter stream, and when he said, "Oh, I'm buying MDIN," or I bought MDIN at 0.0009, I said, "Okay, then I'm going to go in and try to buy it at 0.0092." too. And sometimes I'd buy it for a little more, and I wouldn't squeeze as much out as him, but he would pretty much indicate when he was entering and when he was exiting, so I would just copy that same strategy.
Now, so let's use some numbers here. So let's say he bought at I don't know, a penny. When you bought, was it still at a penny, or what was the price at? When you were able to finally get in?
I would try to get it at a penny, but it might be a little higher. Or sometimes, if I was lucky, it was actually a little bit lower. It went down from where he bought it, so I would pretty much just try to buy it as quickly as I could, just to copy him, no matter what the price was.
But just so everybody can understand, sometimes you're a little late to the party compared to his entry point, right?
Yes.
All right. So let's look at the other side. Okay, so now he says, I've sold. Now, where were you able to sell relative to where he said he sold at?
Again, I mean, sometimes it would actually be a little higher, sometimes it would be lower.
Okay, so right
penny
now,
stocks, if you remember, penny stocks didn't move as quickly. It wasn't like NASDAQ. It could sit there at a price for 2 minutes before it moved again. So, trying to do that on NASDAQ, on something like Apple, there's no way.
Right, but right now, it sounds like this is a pretty good strategy. Sometimes you even got a better entry point. Other times you could get out. But obviously, that's not the case. So at what point did this whole kind of puppet trading thing, well, actually, let me take a step back. So it was working for you. You were making money. You don't necessarily have to tell me the amount of money, but percentage speaking, did you double your account? What kind of how did you grow your account? Because obviously you had some success right out the gate. So define success here.
No, I don't mind telling you outright what it was. My tax return, I dumped $2,000 into TDA, and I think my first huge purchase was Froze. I know you remember that because I was in love with that for months.
You were drinking that Kool-Aid. I think you had an IV of that Kool-Aid just stuck directly in your arm. Yeah. Anyways, keep on going. But yes, I do remember.
I pretty much ended up putting almost the entire thing into Froze between 0.0021 and 0.0078. And that went up to 3 cents. And I didn't sell it because I was convinced it was going to go to $1 at some point. So when it dropped down to about 2.026, I think I sold half of it. But yeah, I can't remember exactly how much it was, but I know at one point I was looking at the net lick, and it was like $24,000 from 2000. And I'm thinking to myself, well, no, I don't want $24,000. I want 200,000. Maybe $1 million. This could be it. So then when I panic sold when it dropped down to, about 2.5 cents.
So you never got that moon landing at $200 million, did you?
No, I didn't. But I actually walked away with probably about 15K.
So that's pretty good. Most of the time we hear about people getting completely scorched on things where they would have bought the top there. So you just locked in this $15,000 penny stock gain from something that you have an IV of Kool-Aid hooked up to yourself. What happens next?
What happens next is that I start day trading it. All right, because I notice a pattern. Right, it gaps down, and then slowly moves up during the course of the day, and then it was doing that one day after another. So I was just playing that whole channel, and I was getting to the point where I was so bold I was dumping the entire portfolio into it, every day, And then that one day, it gapped down, and it just kept going down. And I probably lost about 8 grand in one shot that day.
So, all right, so you're quote unquote playing the channel, and how did the channel trading go for a while? I mean,
It was going great, but I was at that mentality now that I had that money that if it went up, if I had like $100, if I was just a little bit green, then I'd sell it. You know, I wasn't being a CEO, that's for sure.
right.
So
So
it was working.
it was working, right? And how many times did it work? Out of curiosity, if you had to guesstimate.
I'd say 3 to 4 days in a row it traded in that channel, and I remember because you could go back and you could look at that. You could look at the chart and see all those dojis in a row.
So how many successful trades did you have?
Afterwards, I had probably 3 or 4 with that, and then things started to go bad because then.
Okay, so
Kool-Aid
you had 4 successful trades, and I promise I'm trying to make a point here.
Okay.
But and then you said, like you said, something went wrong. It gapped down, and then you lost $8,000 on it.
Yes, because you know what? I just kept letting it go down because the first time I traded it, it went down. I think I was down about $800 at one point, and I made 20 grand. So, right?
Right. Yeah. No. So point here though is for listeners, keep in mind what Zen has said. So he's made 5 trades on it. 4 of them were successful. I'm not a math genius, but I'm pretty sure that's a 80% success rate. That's pretty good. But that one trade that didn't go his way cost them 8 grand, and it totally wiped out those other 4 trades. Is that accurate?
Oh, more than. Like I said, I think I was probably taking $100 each trade because I was selling as soon as it turned green.
You know what? Let's give you 1,000. So he got $4,000 on those 4 trades, and then that one bad one lost $8,000. Now,
There you go.
I know you know the answer to this, so I'm going to ask you. But what do you think your problem was at that point? Did it have something to do with maybe RVR?
I would say so. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Well,
I thought I did. I was looking at stockcharts.com and they had a chart school. So
Yeah,
I figured I was a
chart
chart
school.
wizard.
We all love those free applications and things out there because they're definitely all inclusive and include everything you're going to need to know ever. So you kind of suffer this big loss now. You kind of did you come to the realization at that point that you need to learn how to manage your risk better, or kind of what is your mindset now that you just got kind of roasted trying to day trade? Because this is a pretty cool story in the sense of how you're kind of evolving as a trader.
Well, I was sitting there watching Clay's charts all the time, so I'm like, all right, well, let me plot out supports and resistances.
let me cut you off here real quick. Out of curiosity, did you ever subscribe to the theory that I was some evil shorter that was driving down the price, or did you kind of think that was crazy? And it's
No, I was actually a member of your group at that time. I was a member of your group for the whole time. I just didn't listen to you guys.
well, and I asked because I know that there's been members that still proclaim that there's some sort of like secret subset of the group that then has, we're the evil shorters. But you never fell into that mindset where you thought there was some sort of inner circle that we were doing all this evil stuff.
No. It was the market makers. They were the ones playing me.
Right.
Those evil market makers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to cut you off. I was just curious because I totally remember this and you talking about Froze, whatever that company was, like every single day. So
yeah.
I had to ask out of curiosity. But sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was using your video charts to help plot out support and resistance. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to buy it here. And so that I maybe 2 more times I purchased it at what I thought was a support, and then promptly watched it over the course of maybe a day or 2 fall through that support and give back a little bit more money. I did that a couple times, and then I finally decided, you know what, I'm done with this. This is not working out at all.
So done with trading Froz or done with trading?
Done with trading blindly, I guess.
So would you consider this kind of your quote unquote, breaking point where you finally just said, you know what, something has got to change. I'm not doing this. Was this your breaking point at that point?
Absolutely.
And the interesting part here is you said you were a member of the inner circle, and I brought this point up many times before, but I want people to realize that just because you join my trading group or join another trading group just because you pay for something, that's not a cure-all. That's not going to all of a sudden make you a magical trader, a great trader. Like Zen is saying, he was in the group at this time, but he still he was still basically throwing darts. So you're already in the group, but finally, you said, you know what, something's got to change. So what did you start to do to change, kind of the path that you were on?
I believe the first thing I did was start purchasing some of your courses. I believe the Penny Stock Survival Guide, which was huge. Yeah, that was definitely the first one. That was the eye opener. That pretty much told me what I did wrong and what Froze was doing, and that I was never going to make that $1 million off of Froze, and it was in its down cycle. So that's when I started purchasing the courses. That one, L2, and then robotic trading, and I said, okay, I really have to learn how to do that. But while I was doing that, I had decided instead of puppet trading on Twitter, I was just going to puppet trade from the under $1 room. So that's what I was doing while I was learning.
So you were just kind of taking alerts that were thrown in the room and just kind of playing them however you thought they were heading?
Yep. I think everybody kind of had their favorites at that time. I know we loved MD Trader for a while. He was really nailing it. I was always all over Clay's mine alerts. When he said possible bounce here, I was like, all right, I'm buying mine. And most of the time it worked too, which was pretty cool, but probably in the long run that didn't help me much either because I wasn't learning anything.
Right. So I know that you trade primarily, NASDAQ stocks now. I don't think you have dabbled in OTC for quite some time. So what actually kind of drove you away from penny stocks? Was it the volume drying up, or were you just kind of looking for some larger names, or what kind of moved you from penny stocks to different names?
It was probably the range. The range movement of stocks was too much for my slow mind. If a stock could move up or down 60% in 5 minutes and I was too slow to get out, that was kind of scary to me. And that's kind of funny because when you first look at NASDAQ L2, you're like, wow, that's really fast, compared to the penny stocks. But the price movement, at least of the stocks I was looking at, was a lot slower. So it was almost like it was like NASDAQ was moving at my speed. So, when I came over to the over $1 room, and I remember Gator was probably in some huge hot streak at the time, and it seemed like every call he was making was like perfect. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm coming over to this room. I'm done with this penny garbage.
And garbage it is indeed. So well said there. This is totally random, and this is probably terrible on me as somebody that's interviewing you. But going back to the very first part, so you're puppet trading, and you were doing it pretty successfully. But what eventually happened in regards to that? I mean, you were following this person. It was going well. But why did you even stop that? I know you all of a sudden fell in love with Froze, but what allowed you to fall in love with Froze when you supposedly had this money-making puppet trading strategy?
I bet you know the answer to that one already because it's part of your story and everybody else's. I had a few successful trades, and I didn't need education. I didn't need anybody to tell me what to do. I was a trader. I didn't need to follow these people anymore.
You had the gift, right?
That's right. And if I started losing a lot of trades, then I'd start puppet trading again, right? And when I start winning, and I don't need education. I don't need a puppet trade. I'm good. It's just a cycle back and forth.
So this is pretty interesting. So you're in a cycle of puppet trading, and puppet trading made you money?
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, I don't need puppet trading, so I'm going to trade on my own. And then you would lose money, and then you'd go back to puppet trading. Am I understanding this right?
That's correct. And I think more of that was my ego than anything else, because although it was successful, I didn't like not being able to figure out my own trades.
So are you saying that puppet trading is a successful strategy? Because right now I'm getting the impression like, hey, maybe I should go puppet trade.
It was a successful strategy, but it was a successful strategy because the penny market, back then you could throw a dart at any ticker and make money. I bet you if I puppet traded today, I would not make money.
No, you finally said the magic words. And to provide a little bit more context, I've been in the markets now for basically about 10 years, and I was not a part of the dot-com bubble, but from my understanding, it was just like the marijuana stock boom where you could literally throw a dart, like Zen just said, and you're making money. So while it sounds like puppet trading was super profitable for him, the context of the situation was puppet trading worked, anything worked. Throwing darts at a board worked, saying, hey, cat, come over here. Meow. Okay, yeah, I'm going to buy that ticker symbol that starts with an M. Oh, look, I'm making money. Anything worked during the marijuana stock boom, just like it did during the dot-com boom. And that's why, and I don't say this in a mean way or arrogant way, but if you made money during the dot-com boom or the penny stock marijuana boom, I'm not impressed, because it's just like real estate investing. When the real estate bubble was happening, you could buy a house, pour way too much money into it on the rehab, and because appreciation was happening, it would still bail you out. Mm-hmm. So true traders, true real estate investors, true whatever, money's made during choppy markets and when things are going down. So I wanted to get back to that because listeners may be thinking, wait a second, puppet trading, that sounds like a great strategy. But so thank you for providing a little bit more context, because yeah, absolutely, those marijuana stocks were absolutely booming. And I know, Ches, that's when you entered in also. But I know you were in Bitcoin. Did you ever did you make any money on the marijuana boom, Ches?
I made some and then I lost some. So it was kind of a scratch, but then I lost more on like battery plays for forklifts, because that was an up and coming cool thing, I guess, in penny stocks at one point. But I mean, the Bitcoin trading for me, it's the same exact story, that it didn't matter. I thought somebody on Twitter saying, this is a good place to buy Bitcoin. It didn't matter. It went from $200 to $1,200. At any point, you could have bought that and made money if you held it for like a week. So I, at the same time, thought I was a trader at that point, and it wasn't until I came to the OTC market and kind of got slapped around a little bit that I realized that, there's much more to this. And I loved what you just said there, that, I'm more impressed in choppy markets with people making money. But I think it's safe to say, and I bet you will completely agree with this, you respect people more who are able to minimize their losses in choppy markets, or kind of understand that it's not an environment that might be best for their trading. Can you agree with that, Clay?
No, I totally disagree. It's all about winning big, or go big or go home. No, absolutely not. I mean, in the chat room, winners are great. I mean, you got to win, but I focus on the losers. I want to see people's losers. And if losses are huge compared to winners, then you're going to have a problem, as Zen elegantly, and I appreciate him sharing. Remember, 5 trades, 4 of those were successful, but that one trade totally wiped everything out and then some. So look what you did here, Zen. You took Ches and I off on a tangent, but let's get back to you. So thank you for that. And yeah, this is great stuff. I appreciate you sharing it, because these are some very valuable points. So you're getting into NASDAQ. You're saying, you know what, penny stocks are garbage. I'm going to the other chat room. So what kind of stocks were you looking at that point in time? Are you sub $10, sub $5? I mean, what kind of mindset? Where were your kind of scans leading you?
Yeah, I was doing between $5 and $20 stocks for the most part, and that's just because at that point, I wiped out a good chunk of my portfolio. So, I could buy like 3 shares of Apple. You know what I mean? So, that was my scan, about 5 to 20.
And so how did that kind of evolve from there? Did you decide to you're just doing nightly scans at that point? Are you kind of swing trading them now, or are you day trading them? What exactly are you doing with those tickers?
Right, like I alluded earlier, I realized that the market moves a lot quicker than my brain. So I found that doing charting the night before and picking my trades and holding them for a couple of days was working out a lot better. Again, now I actually knew what I was doing from the courses. Started using a couple indicators. I actually still use them today. The slow stochastic is probably still one of my favorites. Back then I was doing nothing but longs because I didn't really have the capital to short. So my scans every night was anything where slow stochastic crossed underneath 20. And then I would start building my watch list from there for those bounces. And it was always, I'd hold, 2 or 3 days because we had the pattern day trading issue. Yeah, so swings were working pretty well for me. I was able to go home, at night being down $100 and not worried, you know.
Yeah, of course, of course. So that's pretty cool. And I want to clarify for our listeners too. Zen does you have a full-time job, right? So you were
I
kind of
do,
making this work
yes.
while he's making this work while he still has a job. So I mean, we interview a ton of people who trade the 1 minute chart to trade the weekly chart. So technical analysis is technical analysis. But so you're doing that now. You're kind of looking for these bounce plays. I want to kind of take a different direction here. Did you feel liberated at all after kind of expanding your technical analysis knowledge in the sense that you are now planning your own trades, executing, and getting rewarded for them? Did that feel good?
Absolutely, absolutely. Being self-sufficient was, and again, I think that's what was bothering me about the puppet trading. I much prefer to be self-sufficient, and I like doing my own scans, and I actually most of the time I would, for a while there, I would ignore the room alerts altogether and just focus on my own, and then just throw alerts out to other people. I actually wasn't looking at anybody else's alerts for a little while at least, as I was perfecting my game or trying to perfect it at least.
Well, that's there's no shame in that, and that's why I do like having you as a member of the group, because even if you aren't looking at other people's, you're always throwing out some nice little pattern setups and stuff like that. So that's always a nice little valuable asset to have, within the community. So where are you at kind of now in things? I know you're in options. So what brought about that transition to where you are or where you were currently in your story to now being options? What kind of led you down that path?
Uh, somebody that I know was marketing options as a better option than penny stocks. So I don't know if you know who that is. So I figured, all right,
Sounds like a
let me give
jerk.
that a shot.
It's a guy who trades on Excel, right? He uses an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I'm like, all right, well, let me give that a shot. And I like the idea of being able to evade pattern day trading without using short trader and being at risk for being audited as you suggested may happen. Using an offshore trading company. So I figured I'd give it a shot. And as you know, my first trade was successful. My first couple trades were successful, and I think I got a little cocky there, but started making a few mistakes and using real money to experiment with different ideas like straddles and strangles, which was probably not a good idea in hindsight, but
So
it worked out well.
So these mistakes, though, the mistakes where you started to delve into strategies with real money that you had no experience before, was that kind of the core mistake you had made?
That's exactly it.
Now, how long did it take you for these things to kind of slap you across the face and say, "Hey, Zen, what are you doing?" I mean, was it pretty quick, or did you really kind of go down the rabbit hole quite a bit before you realized that you were in a rabbit hole?
No, it was pretty quick. I switched over very quickly to using the Thinkorswim paper trading for those strategies.
So, lesson that people can learn from this is paper trade, right? There's experimenting with real money is probably not the best way to go. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? But there's really no value in paper trading if you're not going to trade it as if you're trading with real money. And that's kind of hard. Especially like TOS, it starts you out. I think your default balance is like 100 grand, right? So the first thing I did was I went in there and edited it to mirror my portfolio value, so that I could try to be a little bit more honest about it. But I mean, there's no value in it if you're not going to trade it as if it's your capital, because you're going to take more chances and you're going to get lucky, and you're going to net these huge gains because you're going to ride something out for 4 days when you know that you're going to be taking profits if it's your actual cash sitting out there.
Thank you for saying that. I seriously thank you. Obviously, we're not paying
Preach
you for
it,
doing
brother.
this,
Go,
but
Chaz. Go, Zen.
I just want you to say thank you for saying that, because I see way too many people, and I didn't do this, but I kind of saw the same thing. So Zen edited his paper account from 100,000 to whatever his account was. What I did is I made sure I only used the amount of capital that my actual cash account had. So at that time, it was only like a $5,000 account, but I paper traded using no more than that, and I made sure I couldn't use more cash buying power than that entailed. But like you said, so many people kind of, especially when they're practicing, and we are huge advocates of practicing. But if you're going to tell me you just put a 50 grand, 4,000 contract position on Priceline, I'm going to tell you you're not going to do that. And maybe someday down the line, okay, I'm not going to hold you back. Dream big, but you're not going to do that right out of the gate. So don't do that. Don't tease yourself with, oh, I made $400,000 today day trading Priceline. It's not going to happen at first. You need to be realistic about it. And like Zen said, there is zero value to it if you don't treat it as real money. But thank you for making that point, because I think a lot of people, especially, TOS is a great paper trading platform. There's a ton of tools on it, and but I think the short answer of what I was trying to say is, especially if you're trying new strategies, you got to practice it with paper, and you got to take it seriously, because I was a victim of that. I kind of did the same thing as you, started trying some new strategies with real money, and I was like, I'm getting slapped around, and this is foolish. I should probably learn that this doesn't work without losing my entire account doing it. But huge point. I'm so glad you made it, because I don't think we talk about that enough. But
actually, let me chime in here. I have a confession to make that's going to make me sound like a loony person. But here's a suggestion: if you want to make paper trading a little bit more realistic, is I'm really, I don't like to run. I guess I don't know anybody that likes to run and make themselves tired just for the sake of it. But think about something right now that you don't like to do. Maybe you don't like to eat a certain food. Maybe you don't like to, I don't know, think of something you don't like. And when you're paper trading, say, you know what? I'm willing to lose this amount. Okay, that's fine. But if you lose more than that amount because you're undisciplined, then tell yourself, you know what? I have to go and do this event that I don't like to do. So for me, I would literally go and be doing wind sprints and stuff to try to tire myself out, because I hate that stuff. But I needed to somehow keep myself accountable so that there is more to it, because it's hard. I totally understand what Zen's saying, but the way your mind works is you're gonna act stupid when you're paper trading, because there's not really any sort of true motivation there. When there's real money on the line, there's plenty of motivation. There's real money. But when there's not real money, you need to create some other sort of motivation. So for me, it was running wind sprints. But for you, think about something you don't like to do. And if you do something stupid when you're paper trading, go and do that one thing you don't like to do. And trust me, while it's still not going to be totally a smooth transition to real money, it will help you out. So do you guys think I'm a crazy person, or can you kind of relate to this sort of stuff?
I mean, I have a big squat bench here, and I do about 500-pound squats every time I make a bad trade. So no, I completely agree with that. And I know people who apply that to, things that are besides trading. Any time that's just a way to kind of start to reduce bad habits you're making. And just like you said, doing something you don't enjoy doing.
Right. And, thinking back to episode 4, I think with Gator, he talked about how sometimes he goes and puts himself in timeout. I mean, I swear people listening to this podcast have got to think that us stock traders, option traders, we're in the loony bin. But it's a psychological game. I mean, it'll screw with your head. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So one final question here for you, Zen, in regards to the paper trading, because I like the little trick that you use. So you sign up for TOS, which Thinkorswim through TD Ameritrade. So you sign up for their paper trading, and boom, $100,000. And I like how you automatically just lower that down to make it realistic for yourself. I mean, do you have any other tips or tricks for people out there that kind of help them make paper trading more realistic?
Well, you know what? I think that if you suffer a lot of losses, you have the tendency to want to just start over, right? And, just reset your balance back and start over again. But, I mean, are you going to do that with your real count? If you lose $2,000, are you going to throw another $2,000 in, or are you going to keep playing it with the money you have? Hopefully most people are not going to reload, although we do know people that do that or have done that. But, you got to keep it real like that. And if you've lost $2,000, you know what? It's your job to make it back again, even if it's just paper money.
Yeah, it's not only your job to make it back again, but it's to kind of find, be a detective, find the root of what led you to lose that $2,000. And I say this every podcast, that trading is a super personal kind of event. It's you versus the market. You're puppet trading, like you said, you had success at one point, but now you're kind of liberated, you're making trades yourself. But yeah, if you're losing $2,000, you're doing something wrong, and you have to kind of figure it out. So instead of just kind of throwing endless money at it, because nothing's going to change. But so I want to know, this is kind of a key point, I believe, in traders that make it in the long term and those who don't. I want to know about how you would take how did losses make you feel? The psychology of losses, say back when you started trading, and then how do losses make you feel now?
Wow. Well, back when I started trading, I had so much money. It was free money. So losing a grand or two was like, okay, well, I'll make it back again because I'm in the penny market, and you can make 10 grand in one day, right? So back then it didn't really bother me too much, but you know, it, as I started, getting into my money because I was adding my own money to my portfolio to make it larger. My psychology completely changed about losses. Um, my first, losses were, there was an excuse for it. Then, later on when I would lose, it's like, wow, I was just being an idiot. And, but I never really looked at why I was losing money. I was just like, well, that was just a bad trade and just moved forward and never actually went back and thought about my mindset, when I was taking that loss. To try to figure out what I did wrong so that I don't repeat it. So consequently, I'd take a decent sized loss. I'd win for a while, and then I would go back and make that same mistake again and make another decent sized loss. And it was a cycle. Well, sometimes it still is a cycle.
Right, and loss. I mean, nobody likes to take a loss. It is what it is. I mean, as humans, nobody likes to lose, especially when it's money. But I mean, do you at this point in time, and it's always an ongoing battle. So there's no cure all to, oh, I feel good about that loss. But I mean, do you understand, the logic behind small losses? And I mean, does that whole thing? Are you starting to realize kind of where losses fit into the grand scheme of things? And does that help taking them make them a little bit easier?
Ironically, and I'd like to say I've been this disciplined for a while, but I think over the last month, I take nothing but small losses, and I don't even think about them anymore. Because I think back to even a few months ago where I'd have 3 or 4 $200 days, and then lose 600 in one shot, something like that. If I lose $45 on 3 bad trades, I don't even think about it anymore.
$45.
Can we get a round of applause here? Can we get a round of applause here?
Well done, sir. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
But are you saying $45 spread across 3 trades, or $45 per
across
trade?
3 trades? Yeah.
Wow. So,
but no, don't. That's not really that huge a thing because right now I'm trading 1 or 2 contracts at a time, so it's not like I'm putting down $1,000 on a trade. I might be putting down a couple hundred at a time.
right. Well, but don't shortcut yourself, because let's think about the other side. You're also managing losses by being proactive, by managing your share size, or in your case, your contract size. So you're controlling your losses before the process even gets started. Well, how is that even possible? Well, you just told us you're using small share size. So that's what a lot of people don't realize from the basic of basics, risk management. Well, how much size are you using? I mean, if you're going to use $5,000 and buy $5,000 worth of contracts or shares, you can lose a lot more. But you're going in. So sure, you may not win gigantic, but you're not going to lose gigantic either. And,
Right.
that's the important part. So yeah, don't cut yourself short. You're doing it absolutely right. And, that's awesome. And that's the point of the show. And thank you for being honest. It's not about, yep, and I've been successful for the past 8 months. You just admit, hey, in the past month or so, I've been really getting it figured out in terms of I can take a small loss and go with it. So that's absolutely awesome. So at this point in time, I mean, do you have any sort of favorite strategies? I know you mentioned a little bit about the indicators, but do you have any sort of favorite kind of approaches to the market at this point?
You know what? I've ramped back on a lot of the faster moving stocks again. I'm seeing now that we're sitting here talking about it, this is starting to become a running theme. I think when I play stocks that move really quickly, like let's say Tesla or something like that, I struggle with those. And you can take a decent sized loss very quickly if you're wrong on something like Tesla. So, I've started to do some of the slower stuff. I've actually made a decent amount of money off of Home Depot and Walmart and stuff that might range like 70 cents or $1. I've been doing a lot more of, charting out trend lines and purchasing and holding overnight. The one I did today, from last night, the Home Depot, that one didn't work out too well because, the market just took off this morning. But overall, just using that whole risk versus reward and buying stuff when it makes sense and doing it in a slower moving ticker seems to be working out a lot better for me.
Now, are you still using the slow stochastics that you were, kind of when you were initially started to trade after you took a few courses, or has your trading kind of evolved into a completely different beast?
I'll use it. I still actually have those two scans in TOS that I use as my starting point for daily charts. Anything that crosses over 80, anything that crosses under 20, I'll use that as a starting point to look for a short or a long. But I mean, that's the extent of it. I don't use it during the course of the day. Sometimes I use MACD for day trading, but I don't even use that much. I just look at the candles and the volume and patterns.
So maybe you kind of answered this, but I want to go back to it because it's as someone that I get emails all the time, I get questions all the time, and you made the quote, and I love it, that you're just, and you said it very casually, but I'm buying things when it makes sense. You would not believe how many people are saying, when does it make sense to buy something? So like I said, maybe you already kind of answered that, but I mean, so in your view, how do things make sense? Like, what are you looking at for something to make sense? Because that is really the golden question for us as traders is from people, I just don't know when it seems like I buy and then it drops, or it seems like when I sell to take profits, it keeps on going up. So define makes sense for you.
Makes sense for me would be where, I don't even know how to explain that. I mean, where the odds are in your favor.
Yeah, that's it. Boom, right there. Where the odds are in your favor. And to go into that, that's a pretty, I don't want to say complicated, but that's a pretty in-depth, area to go into. But perfectly said. When the odds are in your favor, and there is a way to do that. There is a way to leverage probabilities into your favor. But to all those people that may be thinking, when does it make sense? When the odds are in your favor, and that's the power of education. That's the power of just taking things seriously, paper trading, developing your own plans, because then in your mind, things are going to make sense. So well said, a perfect answer there. And I mean, you got to stop giving us so many good quotes. This is some good stuff here. So, okay, you got these favorite indicators. What about rituals? I mean, do you, wake up and bake yourself an omelet and eggs? Or, I mean, what are you doing in terms of, kind of preparing for each trading day?
Unfortunately, my preparation for each trading day is sitting in my car commuting for an hour and 45 minutes. So I have a lot of time to think. And I got the little E-Trade app on my phone that I use just to look at the pre-market stuff. So if I'm at a stoplight or something, I might check and see what's moving. But I don't really have any rituals except drinking a lot of coffee.
So we know that you're flat out in the middle of your journey. That's awesome. I love your full disclosure on things, not trying to sit here sound like you got it all figured out. So, where you currently are right now, what would you say are some of your strengths and weaknesses? And then, what are the goals going forward?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, my strength is probably the ability to see the way things are going to move. I think, when I'm on, I put out a lot of good alerts. I think I probably help a lot of other people in the inner circle make a lot of money. And that's what brings me to my weaknesses. Even though I see it, doesn't mean I always know how to act on it or have the confidence to act on it myself. And I know you and I had that discussion because I saw that in another member, and and I called him out for it. And it's so easy to say, yeah, I nailed that trade, as far as finding it and seeing the direction it's going to go. But it's a completely different ball game once you put your money in on that trade. And getting yourself even in the mindset to put your money in on that trade sometimes is difficult. But then if you do it, then the second issue is, are you going to execute it properly? Are you going to hold it too long and wait until you're back to zero or even taking a loss? Are you going to sell it so quickly that you miss 80% of the run? I mean, all that's just tweaking and fine-tuning. And you know what? That, to me, it doesn't seem like an impossible task, but I got to tell you, it seems like I'm still pretty far off, from the difference between seeing something and executing something.
Well, you are relatively new into your journey, and as time and experience goes on, I'm sure that you are smart enough to kind of recognize how to adapt and kind of how to better manage these things. So I have no kind of fear in that you'll kind of learn how to manage these things better. But thank you, like I said, just like Clay said, this podcast is about honesty, because it's not, we're not here to just say that you have a Lamborghini with a helicopter on it and you're just living the dream. So that's awesome. Now, kind of touching on that, if you could rent my time machine, which is located in my storage unit, and I'll lend it to you for a couple of 100,000 shares of mine or some other penny stock, what advice would you kind of go back in time and give yourself?
Well, I think the big one would be to invest in the education first before putting your money on the line, for sure. Even though I had success with Froze and that was luck, like I said, I gave a lot of it back, so did it really matter in the long run? And I think we've seen enough cases where not investing in education has just ruined people, and I probably came pretty close to being one of those myself.
You said two words that are just, I can't remember what episode. I want to say 7 when we had Big T. He used two words that were fantastic. He said, slow down. People are too rushful. You just said the two other probably most important words, long term. If you score big here and then you score big there, and this all happens in a month, that's not long term. If you have any aspirations and ambitions to do this longer term, it's all about the overall picture, the journey. Hence the whole point of this podcast is we got to be focused on long term. So, and you said it perfectly. In the long term, it really didn't matter. I made those big wins because I ended up essentially giving it all back. So, fantastic usage of two words, which actually brings us. I bet you're gonna be very good at this question. And this is now the famous. If you could describe, or if I said, look, summarize 3 words that you would say a successful trader is going to be associated with, what would those 3 words be?
3 words, huh?
3. You can only use 2, but not 1. It's got to be
okay.
At least 2, but I think you can get up to 3. You're a smart guy.
Well, disciplined, of course. Non-emotional. And, yeah,
Kool-Aid?
That's really it, is discipline and controlling emotions are the 2 things for me.
Penthouse. Penthouse is the new one to use too now.
Yes.
Olympic-sized pool with a water slide. Wait, that'd be more than 1 word anyway, so I'm terrible at this question.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it this way, those are the 2 things that you can't learn, right? You can't learn how to be disciplined. You can't learn how to not be emotional. You have to train yourself to do that. Everything else you can learn. You can learn charts. You can learn, if you're a fundamental guy, you can learn how to understand fundamentals and stuff like that. But you can't learn how to control your emotions, and you can't learn how to be disciplined.
My mind has just been blown. I don't know about you, Ches, but that was deep, man. That hit me down deep.
Just end the podcast here. We can't go any further. It's done. Then just close out the show.
What's the saying those young kids out there use? Is that a mic drop type moment where
that is a mic drop type
just
moment?
Game over? Game over? Wow. I don't even
go
know
anywhere from that.
And this is the final episode of the podcast. I hope everybody enjoyed listening. Zen just mic dropped it right there. So anyways, Ches has got some fun questions. He's going to kick it off. So Ches, hand off to you.
All right, so Clay's most important question here, and we'll determine if you're allowed to stay in the Inner Circle community or not. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, you had to throw that one at me, huh?
I like how people are shocked when we give them a
but
rough draft of questions before. Oh, man, I didn't know that was coming.
Yeah, I admit, I have, what is that?
TLDR?
Yes, exactly.
Could somebody explain that to me? I have no idea. Is that a ticker symbol?
No, that's too long. Didn't read.
Gotcha.
I read the first 4 or 5 questions, and then my ADD kicked in, and I was looking at a squirrel.
Then you went and bought some more Froze?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, man, for the longest time it was The Matrix. I mean, that was the pioneer movie, right? That was where that first slow motion scene of Trinity doing that air kick, that everybody pretty much imitated afterwards.
And then
Oh,
where
yeah.
he bends back and the bullets fly by him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I
Absolutely.
promised last episode that I would try to quote from any movie, so I got a quote for this one. Mr. Anderson. So there we go. That's all I got from The Matrix. So, and that's a terrible impression. But luckily, this podcast has nothing to do with quality of impressions. But what about your favorite meal? When you're ready
Meal.
to pound some food, what kind of food do you like?
It's all about the burgers. It's all about the burgers.
You know, I think we're the same there because my wife always gets on my case. We go to a restaurant and it's most of the time it's burgers or ribs, but I think for the most part, because I'm a cheapskate, I usually go with the burger because those are always cheaper. But what about dessert? How do you wash down the food?
I don't really eat very much dessert unless my kids are eating it. My dessert, I guess, is coffee.
And you love your coffee.
Yes, you see a running theme here, right?
Now, what's your favorite song or band?
Oh man, really? Probably Alice in Chains, I'd have to say.
There you go. That's a good
Now, that's a
classic.
little shocker there, right? An old man like me, but yeah. I actually used to play in a band. We played a lot of that out in the late '90s, early 2000.
Yeah, I could see you in your hour and 45-minute commute just completely jamming out. I could see it. I could see it while
Absolutely.
checking your E-Trade app. Now, what's a place you'd like to visit someday, especially if it's something a place you haven't been to yet?
Oh man, you know what? Not only visit, but I've been looking at Wyoming. I mean, I haven't been. I think I went to Minnesota once on an airplane, but I really haven't
You
been out
think,
west.
You think you went to Minnesota once?
Yeah,
on,
it was
on an
it was
airplane
like
as opposed to like a camel or something, or how does
Yeah.
this work?
or instead of on a motorcycle, or but it might have been one of those The Hangover movie type moments there, where somehow ended up in St. Paul.
Yeah, you cannot confirm or deny. I understand. Why Wyoming though? Out of curiosity, are you like scenery or
You know
what's
what?
out in Wyoming?
The mountains. I love the mountains. I was actually looking at houses around that Jackson Hole area. I would just love to wake up in the morning, drink my coffee, staring at the mountains, and bring my laptop out and go trade out there on the porch.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I did actually take a motorcycle trip through Washington and Wyoming and actually across kind of the whole north of the country. But yeah, if you love like land and spacious areas and scenery and stuff, it's absolutely beautiful out there. Now, what do you do, for fun or for hobbies? What do you do kind of outside of work and trading?
Besides drink coffee.
I drink alcohol too. Yeah,
As a hobby, I think we gotta.
as a hobby.
I think we need to turn this go a different direction here and talk about some problems. If you're drinking alcohol as a hobby, sir.
No, actually, you know what? I think my hobbies have been put on the side a little bit because we're doing a lot of work on the house. So it seems like every weekend I have just constant work on the house, and between doing that and my other hobbies is scanning and looking at charts and drawing trend lines for hours at a time. And every once in a while I geek out a little bit and play some online games like Guild Wars 2.
I have no idea. Ches is the gamer here. I'm an
Yeah.
old man.
Yeah,
Is
but
that a good game,
It's a
Ches?
video game. Yeah, it's one of them conflabbit video games that the kids are playing these days, Clay. That's what
Yep.
it is.
I used to be a gamer a lot heavier than I was. I used to play. I don't know if you remember when Half-Life came out, Ches. Since you're a gamer.
I do remember, and I'm
Right,
still
they had
awaiting Half-Life 3 to be made, of course.
Yeah, and they had a mod called Team Fortress Classic, and I actually was in competitive leagues for years on Team Fortress Classics leagues. And,
That's actually amazing because I actually know a few TF2 pros, which is funny. The Team Fortress 2 one that kind of was after Team Fortress Classic. That's pretty awesome. I didn't know that about you.
yeah, big gamer. Not so much
Right.
anymore, but someday.
And I have no idea what the past 30 seconds was even being talked about. They started throwing out letters and T4 1000s, and I think they said Terminator, the T1000 or something, but I don't know. So let's just go with it. And yeah, maybe I gotta get back into the video games a little bit. And I'm sure one of your other fun things is you said you have kids, so I'm assuming you like to hang out with them. But
Yeah,
that a
a lot
safe-
of sports. A lot of sports. I mean, I got 4 kids and 2 stepkids. And
4 kids, real? Oh wow,
Yeah.
6. Okay, wow. What kind of sports are they in?
I mean, I sit through everything from wrestling to lacrosse, baseball, soccer. Yeah, you name it. Actually, my stepdaughter. She's 7 years old. She plays football.
Really?
With the boys. Oh,
like
yeah.
Kicker football, or like I'm going to run you over type positions?
Yeah, like shoulder pads and helmets and the whole nine. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I hope everybody hears that. You talk trash about Zen, he's going to send the 7-year-old girl football player after you, and she's going to lay the beat down on you. But
and she already beats up her older brother, so.
Well, she's got to toughen him up apparently, so that's that's good. That builds character. It's going to train discipline into him. How about that? Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, final question. If you could meet one person, dead or alive, who would you want to meet and hang out with?
Jim Morrison. How's that?
There you go. That's another. We'll just leave that one lie right there. And,
I mean, yeah, because I mean, I just want to get in that guy's head for an hour and just see what the heck was going on. You listen to his writing and his poems and stuff. It's like, just want to know what was really going on behind the.
I think I know what was going on. I think it's called acid, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think there's the whole blend of things that are going on out there. But yeah, that would be an interesting hour for sure.
He's probably like Zen had a hobby of drinking alcohol, so maybe that had something to do with it too. I don't know.
But Zen,
I'm
really
only kidding. Zen is a great person and not an alcoholic. So full disclosure, that's me kidding around.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We're not checking Zen into rehab or anything. He's good. We're all just having fun here.
I can see now Zen doesn't show up on Monday. Rumors start around the inner circle. Oh, I heard Zen's in rehab for his acid addiction.
He's in rehab, and Clay's got that gambling addiction that he's at the underground casinos. All these rumors. Well, I'll just get started on the rumor mill. But Zen, it was absolutely awesome having you this afternoon. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy day. If people want to kind of reach out and talk to you, what's the best place? Do you use Twitter, Facebook, or what's your inner circle alias?
I am. What is my alias? I think it's just Zen Trader, right? And on Twitter, I am NJ Zen Trader, all one word, and that's probably the best way to get a hold of me if you're outside of IC, the inner circle.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here real quick. Do you have any sort of additional mic drop type epic moments or thoughts, or are you pretty good to go?
I don't. That well is run dry.
All right. Well, we'll revisit it in a little bit because we'll definitely have to have you back. This has been a fantastic interview. So thank you again for just keeping it real. I love it. I'm not trying to sit here and come across like you are currently talking on us from your yacht out in the Mediterranean Sea. So I appreciate that, and thanks so much for coming on.
Yep, far from it, and no problem. My pleasure.
Awesome. Well, if you enjoyed today's show and enjoyed, kind of what we had to say and, just the perspective on things, I'd like to make a small little request. If you are listening to this on claytrader.com on the podcast page, just click one of those share buttons and please leave a comment. That's also a way where if you have questions for Zen, probably a very efficient way to get a hold of them. And, I'll make sure to remind them if there are any questions or any comments down in the area below. To stop by, and he's a very nice guy. He's helpful, so I know he'd be more than willing to interact with you if you had any questions. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please leave a comment, leave a rating. We want to make this as best as possible, and we love to hear about what your feedback is. So please take a few moments and leave one of those. Leave us a rating and leave us a comment. And Ches and I really do read through those. This is not lip service. We truly do want to hear from everybody. So. If you could do that, it really would be appreciated. So thank you again for hanging out with us. Hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you didn't mind Ches and I ranting a little bit more than normal. But like I said, Zen set us up for some fantastic talking points. And this was a great trade, a great podcast. Can you see the mind of a trader here? But
there you go.
It was a great podcast. And I will see everybody back for the next episode.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.